Okay, so we took a look at adjustment layers in the last video, kind of a just basic introduction to them, but we're going to take it a step further in this video. So go ahead and open up the photo for this lesson. And as I look at the photo, I kind of like the foreground here. I think we've got good color, good exposure. I think the sky's kind of blah. All right, but we can fix that with an adjustment. So instead of going up to the image adjustments menu to go to levels, which is what I'm going to use here, I'm going to come over here to the adjustments panel and I'm going to click on, it's the little histogram one, that's levels. I'm going to click on that. We get the same settings that we normally get for levels. It's just in a smaller little panel area, which is fine for me. And what I'm going to do here is just increase the whites to the left a little bit. I'm going to bring the blacks to the right, and then even bring in that middle gray slider toward the right just a little bit. All right, and let's take a look at our little eyeball icon. This is before, and this is after. So what I like here is what we've done to the sky. I like the adjustment to the sky. What I don't like is that it's darkened everything in the foreground. I'm not really crazy about that. Well, if you've noticed, adjustment layers have this little white thumbnail along the right-hand side of them, right? This is called a mask. It comes with an adjustment layer. What we can do is use this little thumbnail here to hide parts of the adjustment so we see the original layer below it, which has the good foreground. I like the foreground in this image. Okay, so we can use this to hide parts of that. The way it works here, and I'm going to show you a very simple example, in the next video we'll take it a step further, but go ahead and select your gradient tool from the toolbox. Come up here to the top left corner here and you'll see that you've got the gradient picker. I'm going to use the black to white gradient here. Alright, once I click on that, I'm going to come over onto my image and notice I have my adjustment layer selected. This is the layer that's selected inside of the tool, inside of the layers palette. What I'm going to do is click on the bottom and drag upward. Alright, see what's happened there? Now what I didn't do, let's click on the background layer. This is what I did not do. I didn't create a black and white gradient on the photo, but what I did do by having that adjustment layer selected is I created a black to white gradient on that little mask that comes with the adjustment layer. So what's this telling us here? It's telling us wherever there was black on this little mask here, we're seeing through to the layer that was underneath it. Take a look, before, after. This is how we can get the best of both worlds here, because now I'm able to keep the original foreground area from that original layer, but I'm also able to take advantage of my levels adjustment layer, which gives me the nicer sky. And that was just by dragging a gradient. So if you've ever got anything with a fairly straight edge in it, a gradient's going to come in really handy. Just remember the key here. You can use that black to white gradient and just drag it in the direction that's going to give you black over the area that you want to see the layer under it. So I wanted to see the layer under on the bottom here. So that's why I dragged the black from the bottom upward, and that's where the black is over. And we can take this a step further. I can go back to my adjustments panel and I can add a vibrance adjustment layer, which is going to help us with the sky as well. There's another little setting inside of this adjustments panel. See these two little circles? Let me zoom in for you. This adjustment affects all layers below. All right. If I click on this, watch what happens. See how the adjustment layer kind of gets nudged over to the right? What's really going on here is now as I start to increase the vibrance, see how I can pump some more color into that sky? I can even increase the saturation. I can do the same thing. It's not affecting the layer, the entire photo. It's only being restricted to the layer which is right below it, and the layer right below it is only affecting the sky. Remember this levels layer, we hid the effects from the foreground. Okay? Just to contrast that, let me show you what happens if we turn this option off. See how it affects the whole photo? Take a look at the foreground. This is before, and this is after. It makes everything too hot down here, and that's not good for this photo. But if I make it only affect the layer below, I'm keeping it from affecting this part of the photo, the foreground area, which I think looks good, and I'm having this just affect the sky area. Now, if you're asking yourself, and I know this question is coming up, okay, this is cool, but you know what? Not every photo I have has such a good defining point, you know, and even this photo is not perfect. All right. We used a gradient and it happened to work okay here, but it kind of could be better because if you look before and after here, let's turn off vibrance. That's before, that's after. The dark sky is still affecting some of the trees over here. So the next question is, how do I get this to not affect the trees over here? Because if I use a gradient, and it has to be, well, that's what we're going to take a look at in the next video.